My original plan for this week's podcast was to release the episode on My Courage to Tell by Laura E. Corbeth. However, I had a fantastic interview with the secret psychiatrist and thought that I would get this out to you as soon as I could. Tell me what you think. It's slightly different to some of our other episodes, but I'm hoping that this is going to become a more regular feature of the podcast. I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Book Club podcast with your hosts Sydney Timmins and Becky Lawrence. We would like to take this opportunity to let you know that we will be covering a diverse range of mental health topics that may be distressing to some listeners. You can find a full list of the topics being covered in each episode in the show notes. Please check the show notes before listening to any of our episodes. Welcome to the Mental Health Book Club podcast with me, Sydney Timmins. And today I have a very special guest who I'm hoping may become a regular, fingers crossed, and that is the secret psychiatrist.
Hello, that's me. Nice to speak to you today, Sydney, and everyone listening. I'm the secret psychiatrist. I'm a psychiatrist in the NHS in London, and I write articles about mental health and motivational statement, which are found on Twitter as the secret psychiatrist, Instagram, and my website, the secret psychiatrist.
So I'll make sure I put a link to all of those in the show notes so you can go and check those out.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. So I thought we'd get you on the podcast today just to get us to have a chat about mental health. And obviously you are an expert in mental health, unlike me. I have obviously had my own mental health issues in the past, so I hope that you may have listened to some of the other ones, but I suffer with borderline personality disorder, depression and anxiety. Woohoo! I also have multiple sclerosis, so that doesn't obviously help at times because of the brain changes and so on. So there's obviously issues with depression there. But I try and ensure that when we're talking about stuff on the podcast that I am as open as I can be with the things that I've gone through. And it's the same with Becky when she's around. I think tonight she's actually doing her masters, so she should be busy sat in the lecture theatre. Yeah, she has to listen to someone stand and talk about kids for a while.
Oh, well, we're having a better time.
So I was hoping that you would be able to come onto the podcast and give the more professional side of things. So as much as I try and research each of the mental health topics, the only ones that I really know a lot about are the ones that I suffer with. And so I was hoping that when we do those specific episodes that you might be able to chip in and if there's anything I've missed. So, for example, we've done episodes recently on dialectical behaviour therapy. I did one on schizophrenia. I did one on grief and anxiety. So there's lots of different topics. And so the whole idea of this podcast is to look at both fiction and non-fiction books that deal with mental health. And I, in my past life, did some research that looked at how people retain information. And it's thought that people retain information better when they read it. So that was another reason for this podcast, was looking at how effective and useful fiction information is to people that have no idea about these mental health conditions and if they are really accurate in their portrayal.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, certainly there are so many books and films as well that portray mental illness in a certain stereotypical image sometimes. So I think it's great what you're doing, and I'm really happy to be talking about them when they pop up.
Well, thank you. That's fantastic. So I was wondering if we could talk a bit more on the stigma side of things.
Yeah.
So, and also I read your recent blog post about social media and mental health. So I wouldn't mind to talk about those if that's all right.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I could talk about this forever, to be honest with you. I mean, stigma, like, firstly, personally, I've had a lot of stigma actually just doing psychiatry. So not many people know unless they're my friends and family, but I was going to do surgery. I was going to be a surgeon. And you know, when you're in medical school, you have very limited exposure to psychiatry. And when you do, it's very poor, actually. You usually have about a week or two in medical school. It might be in a clinic or in a, what people always say, asylum. It's not an asylum. I hate using that word. They're a mental health hospital. And when I had my medical school placement in psychiatry, it was really bad. I was absolutely terrified. No one sort of told me what mental health was about. I didn't understand it. I wasn't educated on it. So I was really scared because I just saw so many locked doors everywhere. And I thought, what is this? So I had no exposure to it. Then I became a doctor. I was planning to do surgery. And then when I was actually applying, so I was in Cambridge at the time, I was applying to be a surgeon in Cambridge. A psychiatrist came up to me, who I'm really good friends with now, and said, I see you as a psychiatrist, actually, and I think you'll be making a big mistake if you go into surgery. And I thought, my gosh, what are you talking about? Like, what is psychiatry? I don't know anything about it. It scares me. So I ended up doing a week in Cambridge with mental health, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was like, I think it's that kind of cliche feeling when you see the love of your life and it all clicks. I felt exactly the same way about psychiatry. I absolutely fell in love with it. I was really educated about what mental health was. And I think for a doctor, being educated on mental health, I can't even imagine people that aren't in medicine, what they must think of it either. Because education on mental health is so poor, and it's getting better, don't get me wrong, but it still needs a lot of work. So I decided I'm going to be a psychiatrist. That is my life and my passion. And there's such a hierarchical sort of status even amongst doctors. So psychiatrists are really looked down upon, amongst surgeons and, among your colleagues. Can you imagine? I mean, it's not that you're a doctor. You're seen as, what is mental health? What is a psychiatrist? And so I had to go through all of that nonsense with people. And I thought, you know what? I don't even care, because I absolutely love this. Mental health is health. No one makes fun of you if you have physical health problems. So why does it matter if you've got mental health problems? It's still health, Mental health affects your body affects your mind. It's exactly the same. And
completely agree.
Yeah. And there's so much stigma to it. So, I mean, that's just in the medical world, doctors amongst doctors. But out there is so much stigma, and I see it all the time, and now I think it's becoming much more normalized, with these celebrities coming out, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy that more people are speaking out. They're not ashamed. And that's what it comes down to. People are ashamed of it. And recently, I'm really proud to say some of my friends who are doctors and psychiatrists have told me that they have mental health problems. And I said to them, why have you not ever said anything? Why have you not got the help earlier? And they say, because what if our patients don't look at me the same way? And they're scared themselves that the patients won't respect them, that their own psychiatrist has mental health and will look at them differently. So I think everybody's attitude, we like to think that we're really compassionate people, and we are. But, sometimes we need to look at ourselves and how we actually interact with your own doctor, your own family member, your friends, your children, because there's a long way to go and there's so much stigma, unfortunately. And it's something that we're still tackling, even not my own friends. And, I'm not ashamed to say I started The Secret Psychiatrist because for the first time in my life, I had a depressive episode. And I was so taken aback that happened with me. And I'm not ashamed to even talk about it, because why should I be? If I fractured my leg, am I going to hide that? Of course I'm not. Just because I'm feeling something inside of my mind, why not? Why can't I share that? So I started writing The Secret Psychiatrist myself. And the reason I titled it actually The Secret Psychiatrist is because so many of my friends that are doctors are ashamed and they feel they have to keep it secret. And I'm tired of that, and I want to break that stigma. So that's why I named it The Secret Psychiatrist. And as I was saying with celebrities, more people are coming forward. And if you actually think about the history of psychiatry, it goes back, back to Hippocrates and Socrates, to be honest. It's one of the oldest specialities. But if you actually look at this, it's 2018, and being homosexual was actually a diagnosis. It's you think about it, it is crazy, isn't it? Gay marriages have only become legalized recently, and in some countries it still isn't.
Still fighting.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And cultural stigma is huge. I am really big on traveling and charity work, so I went to Peru for a month to volunteer as a doctor. And
Wow.
I spent, it was amazing actually. I got really sick, but that was the only diarrhea everywhere. But anyway, so we went for one day. It was a lot of medicine and a lot of surgical, amazing snake bites and incredible medicine I've never seen in my life ever, in England especially. But we spent one day, and I will never ever forget it. It was like going on a cattle horrible breeding farm. So basically we went to this almost remote, looked like desert land, and it looked like an old prison. And we came up to it, and I said to the woman who was running, the project, the volunteer medical project, I said, "Where are we?" And she said, "This is what they call the asylum." And what it was old prison cells outside with a lock, and basically it'd been abandoned, and they had mental health patients behind these doors. And you know how if you have a dog, you have sort of a plastic bowl for food or something, don't you?
Yeah.
And they were putting food and water in this plastic pathetic container, and sliding it like they were animals under these chained prison doors. And then I looked on the right, and I still remember it so vividly. There was a patient, and they basically poured a bucket of water, cold water, right from the lake onto this person, and that was their bath. And they still had clothes on. Yeah, and if you think, I'm really proud to work in the NHS and, what we have, but that really opened my eyes up to this. The stigma of mental health goes beyond worldwide, it's international, and people still in this day and age are treated how we used to treat people, in the 1400s, like animals, and people are not animals. And do you know what it is? People are afraid of mental health. They don't understand it. They're not educated about it, and they're absolutely petrified about it. I mean, if you look at, if you go on a bus and you see someone, say, I'll go back to the fracture, say you've seen someone with, I don't know, a leg fracture, you always give up your seat, don't you? And
definitely.
Yeah, it's just what you do. But as soon as you see someone who you think might, I don't know, and I'm being a bit out there here, might have schizophrenia, is talking to themselves, what do people do? What do you think they do, Sydney?
They all move away.
They move away.
You can see like these people going, oh, they're talking to themselves, or better move because it could be catching or something.
Yeah, and why do you think they move away?
They don't understand. There's just, this, I don't realise what it is that's going on for this person. They're talking to something that isn't there. And I think that lack of understanding is what makes people scared, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly, you've hit it on the nail on the head. People are scared because they don't understand. And because it's different, it's out of the, I put in brackets here, norm, people get afraid. And this is where it needs to stop, because 1 in 4 of us have mental health. No one is immune to it. I tell you now, you might get these arrogant people that are afraid, but you don't know what will happen down the road. It can affect anyone at any time. Dementia is part of mental health. Do you know what I mean? And it's becoming on the rise. Grenfell Tower, the amount of cases I have seen with children, because I work with children as well, of PTSD, honestly, it's outstanding. It's just insane. And it's getting more and more, with these terrible terrorist attacks, it's going to increase, I think. Anxiety, depression is going to increase because of this, obviously PTSD. And I think we all basically need to come to a time in our lives, in this generation, where we realise mental health is not going anywhere, and we need to just understand and really go hand in hand with it.
I also think that media has a huge role to play in portrayal of mental health. I mean, how many articles are there out there that are like, well, this person with schizophrenia went and killed someone, or this person with borderline personality disorder was violent towards someone. And so everyone's like, oh, they've got something wrong with them, they might hurt me. And it's not the case.
No, it really isn't. I mean, anyone can hurt anyone, just labeling someone with mental health is absolutely disgusting to me. Or, media has a big play. And as you said earlier, books, film, we don't mean to, but we live in a generation of virtual reality. So whatever is out there, this is what we will be taking in. And obviously children especially, they're growing up with technology. Today is the first time I ever used Skype, and I'm not that old, to be honest, but children now have, iPads, and what you're putting out there, children take in. So if you put out there, if you've got like you said, oh, you've got schizophrenia, you are dangerous, you will kill someone. That's what they're going to learn. And we need to learn to educate children, just like with sex health class, you know, pregnancy. Children, I feel at school, need to be taught about mental health and that it is normal. You know, more and more, my friends, I've got lots of, you know, gay friends. I hate using the word gay. It's, who cares what sexuality you are? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You're a person.
You're a person. You love a person. You're with a person. And
it's all good.
It's all good. And they're adopting. And, you know, it's becoming more normalised. And yes, it should be. It shouldn't even be normalised.
You know, when I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I'm like, why am I even saying that?
Exactly. And you know what? My dad and I were watching something the other day, and it was two women kissing, and my dad was really taken aback because it was during the day. And I said, why are you taken aback? Because, you know, men and women are kissing all the time on these shows and these beautiful romantic films. Yeah. Where are these romantic films, you know, of women and women or man and man? Like, where is it? And why is that not normal? So I do think we need to start educating everybody, and especially targeting children at a young age, so they realise this is just life and people are just people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of mine and Becky's bugbears, I have to admit, is this lack of emotional education. I think really just this emotional mental health kind of what happens in the mind. They do all this stuff about maths and science and things that they never then use later on. But something as useful as understanding their own mental health that they're going to then use for the rest of their lives isn't there.
Yeah. And you know what, children, I was reading some statistics, 15% of them actually go through depression at some point, and think about suicidal ideation up to 50%. And people aren't aware of this, like, and this happens, these are stats from the UK, and people don't know crazy. That. And it's because no one talks about it. They're meant to feel ashamed, you know. Just because children are children doesn't mean they have an easy life. Just because if you live in the UK or New York, wherever you're living, you know, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. People aren't perfect, and children are always, unfortunately, the victim of these things, and they don't know how to express themselves. And I've seen so many children who have to have family therapy, have to see a psychiatrist because they don't know who to talk to. And it's our responsibility to see this. And I think it's everyone's responsibility. If you see something, you need to understand yourself that mental health is just health. And you need to be comfortable with that, so children are comfortable with knowing what is right and wrong as well.
I think we're slowly getting a bit better, but as you said, definitely. There's still so much we can do to improve the situation.
Yeah, I think it will just take time. Unfortunately, everything will take time. I mean, if you look at, you know, what's happening around the world still, I mean, you know, we haven't really come that far, but there are amazing steps, I think, happening. And I think, you know, I'm a proud advocate for the NHS. I think it's absolutely outstanding what they're doing with mental health.
I think you guys, you have so much pressure put on you all of the time. It's just really crazy. And don't get me wrong, there's probably times when myself and Becky on this podcast have said, oh, well, the NHS didn't do something. But we all understand that you guys have goals and targets, and you don't have enough money to support everything that is happening out there. And I don't know, I think mental health is probably a lower priority. I mean, you said that you come across this issue with stigma even between doctors, that, there's been improvement in the way that you can access mental health care, but are we still doing enough? I think probably not at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's truth to that. But one thing I'm really pushing for, especially when I talk to my patients, is there's a lot. I mean, it's not all just depending. I know you're not saying this, but it's not just depending on the doctor. Oh yeah. You have a lot of power in yourself, and you know, the power of. And people just think, oh yeah. But if you look at it, you know, for instance, A&E takes in about, I was reading something like 70% sometimes of just alcohol referrals. So like people coming in drunk. But you know what? You know what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, especially, and it affects your mental health. You know you shouldn't be drinking. You know you shouldn't be taking drugs. You know, cannabis does increase your risk of schizophrenia. You know you should be eating well, you know you should be exercising. So I think we know this, but sometimes we just need that kind reminder. And you know, mindfulness has become so huge now, which is wonderful, but there's so many other different ways. So, you know, I think mindfulness, you can do in different ways. So some people meditate, they pray, you know, people have pets. Pets are incredible. I've got 3, you know, pet therapy, any kind of therapy. And I think it's really important to recognize what your triggers are, what makes you sad or depressed or, I don't know, anxious, or, you know, even if you've got schizophrenia, bipolar, and you realize what is your sort of peaks and troughs and what makes you more stable. I think you need to incorporate these things daily, because there's only so much that services can do, but you can do so much. But you need to believe you've got that power and you're more than capable of looking after yourself with the help of others.
Oh, definitely. I do think there is this issue where people are like, well, the medical profession must fix everything that's wrong with me, and it's not always the case.
No, it's not. Like, oh dear. And you mentioned cyberbullying earlier.
I did.
Yeah. What made you think about cyberbullying recently in reading my article?
So we had several books that we've read recently, and one of them, I don't know if you've heard of the book, is Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella.
Oh, I haven't read it,
And in that, there is a section where she gets rid of her mobile phone because the bullies are still contacting her. And although it's not done on social media, it's kind of probably inferred in there a little bit that this is still going on. And I think in terms of mental health, again, it's being able to deal with this. And I don't know, back in the day when I was a girl,
yesterday,
we could go home. We could go home, close the door, and we wouldn't have to worry about it until the next day. But it's this fact where in some ways we're even like welcoming it through the door because of social media. And again, we're not necessarily giving our children the skills to cope with it. I mean, me as an adult, I find it extremely difficult when I see someone being trolled, because you're behind this screen. These people think they can say whatever they want to say, regardless of anything. And it's just, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, so when I wrote that article, I think I titled it Social Media or Digital Age or something like that.
Something similar.
And so I went to a conference, and basically they had these amazing lecturers, and they weren't from medical professions. It was people that talk about cyberbullying. I've got one of the links on my page, actually, if anyone's having trouble with that. And they spoke about how, you know, that we do now live in a virtual reality world. And I think especially, so let's take Instagram, for example. So when I started, so I'll give an example. So when I started The Secret Psychiatrist, I thought, right, I need to have really snazzy, you know, stunning pictures, you know, fashion pictures that could relate to mental health, you know, to make people look at it. And I did that for a while. And one of my friends was in fashion and she absolutely loved it. And then I thought, yeah, these pictures are great, but actually this means absolutely nothing to me, these pictures. You know, I've got no connection with them. And quite honestly, the people looking at them, I wouldn't want them to read my material anyway, because I'm not trying to advocate a fake, you know, superficial lifestyle. That's not what I'm about. You know, I'm not putting pictures of myself laying on a beach, because you know, why would that matter? And when people do that, and I'm not saying, you know, don't do that. I've got loads of friends who put these stunning pictures on, and I'm happy for them, and that's fine. But it's not always real. And the people looking at them, I've had so many, especially teenagers, and that's what shocks me, teenage girls and boys who contact me and they feel so depressed because they're looking at these pictures and they're thinking that should be my life. And it's not, because it's not reality, is it? It's virtual reality.
No.
And to be honest, I always say, if you really are enjoying that lifestyle, you shouldn't really be posting it. You should be living in the moment in it. You know what I mean? Like, just enjoy your life. You don't need to go and show off. Like, we've got magazines for that. And I think it's become such a thing now, isn't it? You know, I've got to take a picture of this amazing meal, this amazing outfit, you know, this and that. And it's like, my God, who cares? But the thing is, what we don't realise, when we put something out there, we really have to be slightly cautious. I'm sorry, we all need to be responsible. And I know it's not fun to think like that, but you don't know what children, adolescents, vulnerable people are reading this, and it's making them feel worse because people can't distinguish that that's not real and that's how they should be living their life. And so virtual social media, so I'll come on to the cyberbullying bit. So, social media, if used wrongly, and also we're to blame as well. So, but sometimes when you're in that frame of mind and you're vulnerable, or you're going through a depressive episode or whatever it is, and you're looking at these sites, because that's the time when you really look at them late at night, you're feeling lonely, you want some sort of human contact. So you go on these sites and you look at these pictures and you just feel worse about yourself, to be honest with you. So then I started changing my Instagram to quotes, because that's actually what I cared about, making people feel good no matter what day, what time, whatever you're going through, mental health or not, whether you're having a relapse or not, and making you feel good about yourself and empowering yourself as a man or woman or as a child. So I think we've got to be very careful about not creating a false sense of life, because it's not. And I wish also film, and it's changing, but why are actors and actresses so ridiculously perfect, Like, what is that about? Like,
they always look immaculate, and I bet even in like HD, there's no wrinkles or anything or spots.
I mean, they are not real people. I'm really bad like that. So I'm such a sucker for these, Pride and Prejudice and all these, beautiful, beautiful things. But you know what? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I think we need to start advocating on TV what real people look like. And it's you are beautiful regardless if you have a monobrow or not, like it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Who cares if I don't shave my legs? It's my personal choice. No one else.
Exactly. I haven't done it since 1999. Like, it's
exactly.
Fine. So yeah, who cares? So anyway, so at this conference we were talking about that, and then this one woman, she's originally from Australia, I can't remember her name unfortunately, but from what I understand, she was a victim of cyberbullying, and now she goes across the UK to schools and conferences and talks about it. So she was telling us that, and I didn't know this actually, that so anyone, whether you have mental health or not, actually going on social media and having cyberbullying increases your own risk of being neurotic, anxiety and depression. I mean, depression and anxiety you can kind of relate to, but I didn't realise it increases your chance of and also in a way can increase your chance of personality disorder of these cases, because you're getting fed this information. And as you said, you don't also have to worry about bullying in real life. You now have to be so scared about being bullied by people you don't even know. And
they take offence at something, and you're kind of cannon fodder, aren't
it's
you,
like
really?
You can't even live your life, because our life at the moment is on virtual reality, and you can't really get away from that. But who gives you the right to bully someone online? I mean, are they so perfect that they're doing that? It makes no sense. And I was watching, that show Celebrity, Jungle, Get Me Out of Here, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a big thing there. Did you watch it, Sydney?
I must admit I didn't. I was more of a sucker for Celebrity Big Brother.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell anyone.
That is so last year. No, I'm joking. So I was watching this, and there was a whole sort of issue. So there was a personality character there. He admitted he had mental health. I mean, I'm really happy that he admitted that. Yeah. But then the public started attacking, some of the celebrities in there quite viciously online. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with what they said, but then if you don't agree with someone because you think they're bullying someone, what are you doing? You're doing the exact same. And just because you're writing it, that makes absolutely no difference to me. That is bullying, and that is called cyberbullying. It's bullying. And I said in one of my articles, in that article, social media, you wouldn't throw a knife around in real life. So why would you throw it around in your words? Because some people actually say that, I want to kill you. Who gives you the right to say this? And people aren't strong, we're not robotic, and these words hurt. And they always, there's that saying, what is that saying? You can break my bones, but
Dicks
words will
and
never.
stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me.
But they do.
I must admit, we talked about this recently. It does. How
it does
painful.
Hurt. It does hurt.
Yeah.
And anyone that says it doesn't, I'm sorry, you must be an incredible, robotic, unemotional human being, because it does hurt.
Exactly. Can I have some of that? Because my emotions are 1,000 most of the time. I could do with a bit more lower emotions.
Yeah. But like, you know, people want to live in a really happy rainbow world, but you've got to create it as well. I don't mean you, Sydney, but I mean in general, we have got to create it. So you can't go around saying these things and teaching your children, other people around you, and think you're perfect, because that is no life that anyone wants to live. I'm sure we all want to live in a wonderful world, you know, like in that film, what was it, Trolls recently, that lovely little cartoon. I love that film. You know, there's a reason we watch, you know, cartoons, because we want that life. Secretly, we all want that happy life where we say hello to everyone. But it can happen, but you also have to do it. You know, so when you're walking down the street in London, because I'm from a countryside, so we say hello to everyone on the street. You know, everyone knows everyone's business. It's disgusting. But in London, even I'm to blame. You know, I'll walk past everyone, and like, if you just gently graze someone on the shoulder, you know, you give each other the daggers, and it's like, we should really just be saying hello, sorry I bumped into you. But you know, if I get on the bus here, you know, in the countryside, you know, you say good morning, thank you so much, and here it's literally like, get me on the bus right now, you know. But no, cyberbullying is a huge thing, and I think it's just going to get worse, to be honest, because social media and apps are getting more and more. And it's something I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of. And I think we're going to be having a lot more educational talks at schools about it as well.
I think we need to, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, I'm hopping all around.
That's all right.
Stigma.
No, go for it.
So not many people know, and I'm not ashamed. Why should I be? I have dyslexia. And
yay, me too.
Oh yeah, we should join the little club.
We should. It'd be a very cool club.
Obviously, it would be,
because we'll be there.
Yeah. But I recently told actually a consultant psychiatrist in forensics that I was dyslexic, and I didn't need to tell him. I just, you know, I thought, you want to get to know me a bit, whatever. You know, it doesn't interfere in my work. Like, I'm sure with you know what you need to concentrate on, and you just make sure you do that. And he actually put it on a report and said, I need to be watched out for every year because I've got dyslexia. And
why?
Exactly. And I said, that is absolute discrimination. And I said, you can't do that. And I said, I was telling you as a personal, you know, getting to know you, and it doesn't affect my work in any way. There's no reason to be concerned. And you have absolutely no right. And I took it further, obviously. But, you know.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, but it's just that fact of that. There was a stigma. And, it, you know, just because you're a psychiatrist doesn't mean you're a perfect human being. Unfortunately, you still have it everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand.
I don't understand. So my point is, unfortunately, you know, stigma is everywhere. And just because I work in mental health doesn't mean I don't see it. I see it every single day. But it's just being aware and having a voice. And I think that's why I'm so passionate for talking about mental health, because sometimes people don't feel they have the power to say anything, and that's wrong. You know, I mean, there's all this time's up, you know, with women at the moment and men, and that's wonderful. But, you know, and I'm for that, but we need to have that with mental health as well. You know, time is up for mental health as well, and people need to be able to come forward comfortably and not be judged for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my own troubles with mental health, we were discussing before we started this, that I try to be as open as I can about the situation. And there are obviously things in my past that I'm not happy about, but it's in my past. That's what's happened. And there's nothing I can do about it. I can't change it. I can only move forward now. And I don't know. I haven't had any backlash as yet, touch wood, about the fact that I am very frank about that I was violent towards my husband mainly, and I did self-harm, and I did have suicidal thoughts, and I did try to take my own life at different points. But I can fully understand that there would be people out there that wouldn't want to necessarily tell others that this is going on. And as you said, I do think it should be something that we should be able to talk about. And I know there's this concern that if you talk about suicide, maybe other people will get the idea. It's not like that.
Yeah,
and exactly.
That's not true. That's not
I'm
true.
glad you're saying this.
There was research. Sorry to interrupt you. There was research. I'm really glad you brought this up. I need to say it because I feel it's important. That went into, if you talk about suicide, does it make other people think that they should, commit suicide? And there was no evidence for that. So I'm really glad you mentioned it, because that is a false myth.
Brilliant. I love that. So everyone, we're going to say that again. Just by talking about suicide does not mean that people are going to go out and attempt suicide. Yes. Because I felt that if I had someone that would listen to me at the time I was feeling extremely suicidal, I probably wouldn't have got as far as I did at the time, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
And it's just how's someone going to respond to me when I say in the past I have self-harmed and I have attempted suicide. I feel like everyone judges me when I say that, but why should I feel bad about it? It's just the way it is, and that's what I try and deal with it.
Exactly. It's like so my mum recently, so there's no other doctors in my family, it's just me, so I have a lot of conversations with my family, because they want to know about certain things. And my mum was like, imagine, like, she said to me, do you think those who have drank alcohol should get liver transplants? And that's, it's a big ethical question, whatever. It's a huge thing. I mean, there's so many different things. And another one is, HIV or whatever. But I said, do you know what? Like, people that have whatever they have, it doesn't matter about your judgment. It's the fact of they should feel comfortable enough to say it if they want to say it. And people don't need to disclose this information. I mean, it's good that you do, and it makes you, I think, feel really good and empowered. It makes you better, I think, and probably helps you so much, which is wonderful. But people don't need to come forward, and that's fine as well. But what is wrong is if they do come forward, that people do not, in a sort of empathetic, kind way, listen to it. People should come forward if they want to and be listened to and not be judged. And I think that's important.
Definitely.
Whether, whatever you have, I mean, back to the HIV thing, that's become much more, I mean, obviously it's still a disease, but it's become much more normalized and people aren't so ashamed about it. And I know doctors with HIV, and, we shouldn't be there to judge people. We're human beings. Like, if we were perfect, I'm sure life wouldn't carry on. Like, the reason I think we're all here is to try and help life, for the next generation and improve it year after year. We're not perfect. We're not these virtual reality individuals. Like, but we do need to improve if people do want to come forward. And I'm so glad you have spoken about, what you have, because I bet there are so many people that relate to you actually, and are so like, she's talking about stuff that I've had, and she's been more brave than me, and you probably have touched a lot of people and not realised it as well.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel, I feel warm and fuzzy.
No, but you should though, because especially when I talk to my patients, and what we sometimes do as well, we bring patients that have left services, and now they go around the country and educate people on mental health, and it really inspires those that are going through something. And I think it's really important for people, like you, me, everyone, just to talk about it and normalize it, because there are so many people that don't have a voice, unfortunately, or too scared to, and that's such a shame. But we're in a position that we can, and it's fine.
Yeah, and not to be ashamed of speaking about it if you feel that's what you need to do.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I know that, I mean, no, go on.
I mean, sorry to, I was going to make a funny comment.
Yeah, go for
it. So like, sorry to make it comical, but it's like in A&E, I've seen so many sex injuries, but people aren't ashamed of it. You know? So why should you be ashamed? It's like,
I mean, one of the things that probably stopped me from going and getting any treatment was the stigma associated with self-harm and this thing where I felt that I should just be able to get on with it, and this stiff upper lip situation where they're like, just suck it up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that I don't tell my family about, because I know that they just wouldn't understand, and they wouldn't necessarily agree with what I say or what I'm doing. And I think that is a little sad in itself, is that even when you want to speak to someone in your own family, they don't necessarily understand. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely relate with you because so I'm actually from an Asian family, and as I mentioned before, culture in psychiatry is really diverse and it's very stigmatized in certain countries, like for instance, like Peru, Nepal, India, to name a few. And so when I actually spoke about, so I had that episode like 2 years ago, there was loads of personal circumstances that happened and I was grieving, there was loads of different family losses, etc. And it was only when I actually started talking about mental health and that I went through that I was so shocked. So many people in my family came forward and went into personal therapy, and they were so ashamed. And I think because in my family we have there are certain family members that are really, really strict religious, and sort of anything to do with mental health is seen as something bad or something's gone wrong with God or something like that, whatever. I'm sorry if anyone's religious, I'm not saying anything about God or not, but they were so ashamed of it. And in Asian families, people are ashamed of it. It's all hush hush, like keep it in the house, like don't let anyone talk about it. And I think sometimes it's also the British kind of culture and the Western culture, to kind of fix it, look good on the outside, but don't tell anyone what's going on the inside, kind of thing. You don't talk about these things. And there is and that's why so much domestic violence happens, because no one talks about it. And that really has to change. But I think it will change. I think, I'm really proud to be in mental health in this generation, because I think this is the turning point and it will improve, and it can only improve because more and more people are fighting for what's right, whether it's from sexual assault, violence, PTSD, whatever it is. More and more people are becoming comfortable with that. And people will have to listen in the end, and it will just take time, and it starts from the home, but it will work.
Yeah, and definitely safety in numbers as well. The more people talking about it, the more mainstream it's going to become.
Definitely agree with you.
So keep talking, people. We can do this.
We can talk all day.
Exactly. We might be here all night at this rate.
Yeah. No, we'll wrap it up.
Brilliant. Well, some of the things that you've said have really surprised me, particularly the bit where you talked about there being stigma even in the health service. That really made me go, I guess if you look at the rest of society, you can kind of understand. And why wouldn't you guys have the same thoughts as the rest of the population? For some reason, I think I've put you up on all of the healthcare system is amazing and doesn't have any judgments. Although I do know that people that are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder are often given they're a tricky customer kind of. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand, because there are times when I can be quite needy. But yeah, it just makes me really go, I don't know why I didn't think that before.
People are still people at the end of the day.
Exactly. Why did I think that it would be any different?
Well, it was really great talking to you about this. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad. I hope we can get you back on soon to have a chat about some other stuff. And
yes, please.
Maybe we could start off each of our talks about your latest blog post or something.
Yeah,
or
that'd
one
be
of your
great.
blog posts.
Yeah.
That might be a nice way for us to get into a discussion. I can also give you a list of all of the things that we're going to be talking about in the upcoming episode, so you've got an idea as well.
Perfect.
And hopefully you'll be able to answer any questions.
Oh, me too.
Because there are certain points when I go, so how does that work?
Definitely.
Well, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. So we'll give another shout out. So where can we find more about you?
So I work under the pseudonym The Secret Psychiatrist, which you'll find on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my website, thesecretpsychiatrist.com.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, Sydney.
We'll hopefully be in touch soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Mental Health Book Club podcast. If you need additional help with your mental health, please contact the Samaritans on 116 123, which is a 24-hour helpline. And if you need additional information about mental health issues, please visit Mind at mind.org.uk. Our next book will be My Courage to Tell by Laura E. Corbeth. If you'd like to find out more about the MHBC podcast, please visit our website, mentalhealthbookclub.com. We really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and we would like to hear what you think. Please head over to Twitter and follow us at MHBC_podcast, or head over to Facebook and follow our Facebook page, which is Mental Health Book Club. If you would like to show your support further, please share us with your family and friends, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. We are now on Patreon. Please head over to patreon.com/MHBC to donate as little as $2 a month to the Mental Health Book Club podcast. As a result of your donation, you will get early access to some of our episodes, you will get specific episodes that are only for patrons, and you'll be eligible to be entered into free prize draws.